Hi, I'm Dave Stanton, and some of you might remember me as a police officer here in Peters Township, and maybe even more as the dare officer in the Peters Township School District for a long time. And some of you might also know, because I talked about it a lot, that I happen to like trains, especially model trains. And many years ago, started a program and it ended up being about model trains. So that's what we're going to start a series today about the program we do called the Dare Model Railroad Club. Here is the first train I had when I was a kid. This was from 1964. It was called the Train with the Brain, and thanks to some very great friends, I got that as a present. And but today we have Chet Lang with me. One of the many people that help with the Dare Model Railroad Club. And we're going to just go over what the Dare Model Railroad Club is today and what it's all about.
All right, Dave. Dave, for starters, can you tell us how and why you did start the Dare Model Club?
Yeah, when I became the Dare officer and a couple years later, had one parent come to me and tell me that her son now was in middle school and he got caught smoking. And she wanted to know if there was something, we could help him with. So played hockey, grown up, football, baseball, that, but he really wasn't interested in sports. And I finally said, do you like to build models? And he said, yes. So we started a model building club after school. And we did that for a few years. And then a place in where Starbucks is up on 19, there was a place called Hobby City. And I went there and I talked to them. They sold all kind of models and everything, and they welcomed us in and was willing to help with everything. And after about a year there, they said, hey, we got an extra room here. Would you like to use that to build a train layout? And we started that. So that started about 92, 93. And we were there for probably 4 or 5 years. And eventually they tore it down to build the Starbucks. But then we ended up moving to the Venetia Heritage Society building, which is formerly the Venetia Elementary School down on Venetia Road. And that's how it all got started.
Can you say where and how did we get to this point today with the club being located at that location?
Well, we started with just those few kids, and like I said, we started with the model building, and we would have like 6, 7, 8 kids at a time in each of the classes. And then when we started the train layout, it seemed like more people got involved. And there was times we had 5, there was times we had 6, 7, 8, and then always had a couple adults helping, which was really great. And it seemed like the more people that heard about it, the more people that seemed to be interested, like there was a great interest for the model railroading. And then there was a few articles that came out in the Observer Reporter and the Township Magazine and things like that. And just from that, and that was kind of when all the internet was starting and everything, and because of that, next thing you know, people started asking, hey, we got a train set, would you like to have it, and things like that. So that's how we got started. And so our first project, and we were in Hobby City, we were building a layout down in their building, and it was kind of just a generic model railroad. But when we moved to the Venetia School, which probably was about 2009, 2010, we decided let's build a Montour layout because the Montour Railroad ran through Peters Township and people used the bike trail all the time. So we started a HO scale model layout of the Montour Railroad, and that went very, very well. But then other people started giving us the stuff and a couple 4x8 layouts, some train stuff. So we started using a little more room, kind of took over a second room. And we had some little HO layouts and everything. And then we had a very generous donation of an entire O-scale layout. And so that's when we took over the entire second room. And the donations just continued and continued until where we are today, which as you will see in future episodes, there is a lot of donations and a lot of trains that we've been given.
Okay, and I noticed that we become involved with the Montour Railroad Historical Society program. How did that come into being?
We were thinking about 2004, 2005. There's a gentleman named Gene Schaefer. He grew up in Bethel Park, and as a kid, he loved the Montour Railroad. And he actually would sneak out of his house at night when he was like 14, 15, 16 years old. And he would go and sometimes ride the trains back then. You know, some of the locomotive engineers would say, "Come on up, kid," and he'd go ride one of the Montour trains. And but he has kind of become has become a great historian of the Montour Railroad, and has actually written at least 2 books on the Montour and several other on other local railroads. So he did a presentation down at Venetia School in about 2004, 2005. A few years later, he also did one at the Peters Township Library. But then, and a friend of ours, Brian Sipe, about 2011, he heard about us and knew what we were doing, so he stopped down one day. And anybody that does stop down, they never get to leave. They're stuck forever with us. But he joined us, and he was a very big part of the Montour Railroad Historical Society, and today he is the president. And so it only made sense to kind of combine with that and the Montour Trail, because everybody uses it. If anybody sees the plaques on the Montour Trail, the historic markers, Brian has probably been part of, if not all of them, most of them. And so that's kind of when we decided to start building the Montour layout itself.
Oh, okay. Can you give us a brief description of the current layouts and the evolution plus changes that have taken place?
It's kind of incredible. We did start with the Montour layout and the model of the Montour Railroad, and it fit in one of the smaller classrooms at Venetia School, which smaller, it's 23 by 30, so it's not really small. But we had to really compress what we could do. You know, we tried to include like the junction, Montour Junction down in Coriopolis. We had a small representation of McDonald Viaduct, which people can still ride over today on the trail. We had Montour 4, which is right down on Valley Brook Road in Peters Township. So we kind of had some local things, but obviously could only do so much with it. And with that, though, as we got more and more information and more photos and things like that, we kept thinking, oh, we could really make this better if we had more space, and more space. So, but we kept working on that. I think the important thing to know about this club, something I should have said earlier, is this is totally for kids. We have several adults, 9 adults, I believe, that help us, but this is all about the kids, and it always has been. We have kids as young as 5 years old that come and play with trains, and they go up to, we now have people that come back and help us that have been through Peters Township or been through it since they were 6, 7, 8 years old, and are now, like, one is working with nuclear submarines out at Bettis. So that's kind of neat. But so we started with the Montour. We had the donation of the O-scale layout, and that has even grown bigger and bigger because people wanted to do more with that. And again, the articles in the Observer Reporter and some of the other things, there was, we just kept getting more and more donations. I would get calls from people in Florida, California, New York. Actually, just a week ago Wednesday, I had a gentleman call me from the Bronx, New York. He heard about us, and he actually sent us 4 boxes of train stuff just this past week. So we kept getting more and more donations. And because of that, we were able to do more and more. So one of the things we decided to do several years ago was build what we call a modular layout. And one of our people that helped, Scott Schnabel, he's been a contractor in Peters Township since 1964. And he helps us all the time. And so he made kits for each kit. And it's about 3 feet by about 18 inches. He had all the parts pre-cut, but then he would work with each individual kid to build their own little section of layout, but then we would put them together. And today we call that the kids layout, which a lot of the younger kids run on. And so there's been a great progression. But then as we got more, Venetia Heritage Society has been absolutely wonderful with us. We don't pay a dime for anything down there. There is no cost to anybody that belongs to the club. With donations and people that help us, we've just been able to expand and expand till we now have the entire top floor of the old Venetia School, the former Venetia School, and we have one room now on the second floor, which is part museum, and we also have stuff that some used stuff that people can purchase from us.
Okay. Can you tell us maybe some of the different layouts? You talked about HO, no skill. Do we have a specific room for the O skill
Yes,
and for the HO?
And even in what we call the kids room, we do have an HO layout there, and it's just a big circle, 12 by 6, and it has 3 tracks on it. Kids can run there. Above that, there is an American Flyer layout, which some people, when growing up in the 50s and 60s and things, it was Lionel and American Flyer were the 2 big trains, and so we have a American Flyer layout there. We also have a steel mill layout there, which was donated to us. And we also have a shelf layout that runs along 2 walls of the room, which you can operate that just like a real railroad would. And then in the other room, there is, when COVID happened, we decided to make some big changes and we moved things around. We have moved the Montour layout to the big room upstairs. And in that now is a double deck layout of the Montour layout, which now captures almost everything, most of the scenes on the Montour. But also in that room, we had a donation of G scale trains. So we now have G, HO, S, HO, and we are actually working on an N scale layout also.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the HO scale Venetia steel mill, where it came from?
Yes, probably about 7-8 years ago now, a gentleman that lived on McCombs Road, Bert Mangold, contacted us, and he wanted to know if we wanted this HO layout. And when we went and got it and picked it up from him, it is a steel mill, and it has lights in it. It looks like there's fire coming out of parts, like some of the molten steel and everything. The amazing thing about that layout, a lot of it is built with cardboard. A lot of it's corrugated cardboard. There's tubes, but unless that's pointed out, you can't really see it that much. And it is just incredible. And I think we have a trolley and 3 trains that run on that layout. That's HO.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Tell us a little bit about the Christmas open house that we now host.
In 2018, we started with the open house, and that went really well. And we are in conjunction with Wrights Methodist Church and obviously the Venetia Heritage Society. We are actually, the Dare Model Railroad Club is part of Peters Township Recreation Department. We're also part of the Venetia Heritage Society. And so we worked all together, and we had an open house. And there is some singing goes along outside and everything. And the first year, I think we had about 70, 80 people, which we were thrilled. 2019, we had our second open house, and we probably doubled that amount of people. And just the interest was fabulous, and just it was amazing how crowded it was. Unfortunately, because of the COVID, we had to skip a couple years. But 2021, we actually had our third open house, and it was the best yet. We figure we had well over 200 people there. When we were getting ready to open, we look out the windows and the parking lot was full, and everybody came up, and the rooms were just full for 2 or 3 hours with people coming through and visiting. That's where people have given us monetary donations and things like that. But that's where we also generate a lot of the new kids, and that's why with this video series, that's one of the things we're hoping to do is create more interest and let more people know that we have this for kids that are interested.
Now, with the COVID being relaxed, we started to have it open Wednesdays and Saturdays. Can you give us the times that that we're open?
We used to be open 1 day a week, but now we decided we are open on Wednesdays from 3 to 6, kind of after school, And on Saturdays, we decided we were now going to be open from 9 until noon. And that gives people a chance, whether they can make it after work or can't, or they can come on Saturday mornings. And all of the layouts we have, the kids can run them. This is a hands-on club. Our plan, we also, kids build stuff, they run the trains, they help put the stuff together. They help with every single part of what we do. And I think that's what sets us apart. There are several model railroad clubs in the Pittsburgh area, but they primarily are for adults.
Right.
Some of them have a couple of small layouts the kids can, kind of play with. But our layouts, the kids run. And some of them go in circles. The Montour layout is actually run prototypical. You take the cars from go to the mines with empty hopper cars, pick them up, take them to the Champion prep plant, which was on 980, and that's where the coal was clean and sized, and it was put back in hoppers, and then it was transported to either the PNLE, the PRR, Mifflin Junction to the Union Railroad. So we can simulate all that with the operating sessions. And the one thing that's really great is one of our members, he's still in high school, he has really done a great job kind of coordinating that. Brian Sipe, again, being president of the Montour Historical Society, he obviously is well known and recently has just given a presentation on the Montour, but he helps. But one of our members have actually really stepped up and started showing people, and actually coordinates the activity of all the trains. So this is not like a lot of people that hear about the Model Railroad Club. They think they're going to come in, they're going to see a little 4 by 8 foot train layout. No, that's cute, but actually when people come and see it, they are just amazed at what we have there and how we run things.
So the thing is, it's really open to the kids of all ages, even those in their 70s.
Actually, our oldest is 86. I know his grandchildren go here. Then we have a couple, one 84, and it goes down from there. And so literally it is for anybody. Now all the adults there do have our clearances, and everybody meets all the proper criteria for that. So we are, compliant with all that, and that's super important to us, safety. And that's the one thing about our club too. There is no making fun of anybody. Everybody gets along. I mean, that's the number one rule, is that everybody gets along. Actually, we only have one real rule in the club, though.
Have fun.
Well, actually, it's Officer Day's never wrong, but yeah, that's been that way for years. But yeah, that's the one rule.
We let that slide.
We do let that slide, yes.
Can you tell us some of the future topics we hope to discuss and show?
Yes. Our plan is, I think the next episode, we want to show a tour of all the different layouts we have. And I think when we counted at the open house, I want to say we had something like 21 trains totally running down there during the open house. I think it was something like that, maybe a few more, but it was in the 20s. So there are a lot of different layouts. One of the things, Brian Sipe, again, is going to do a presentation on the Montour Railroad itself, and how it interchanged and how it ran. And it was very important to Peters Township area. If anybody has seen Fife Farm on Thompsonville Road, there is a sign there that says Fife Farm. They used to send milk down to Valley Brook Road, and that would be picked up by the Montour, taken to Pittsburgh, and then processed to be used as milk for people in the stores. One of the things we want to talk about, and sometimes this can be a little confusing to people, is scale and gauges. Scale is the size of the trains compared to real life. O gauge, like Lionel, say. A lot of traditional Lionel was not scale. It was kind of made smaller so it could run on tighter curves. But technically that's like 1/43rd. And then HO, which is the most popular scale, that's 1/87th. So 1 foot in HO would be 87 feet in the real life. And then N is 1/160th. And then American Flyer is 1/67th. Okay. So and then now gauges, we have O-gauge trains, but, well, O-scale trains. We also have, which the space between the rails on a real railroad is 4 foot 8.5 inches. That's from this rail to the next rail. That's what the wheels run on. We have some narrow gauge trains in O scale that in real life they would run on 30-inch track. It would only be 30 inches, 2.5 feet between the rails. They were smaller, cheaper to build and everything. So that's what they were done. So we're going to talk all about that and hopefully clear a lot of that up. Another thing that has just gone, has totally changed the hobby, is the types of controls used in scale model railroading. Used to, for years and years and years, since actually probably 1900s on up, when Lionel started and Ives and all those, it was a rheostat. You turn the handle, the train goes faster. You pull the handle back, it goes slower. So that would, you know, that's how you ran the trains. Over the last probably 20 some years, they came out with something called Digital Command Control, DCC. And we're going to get into that, but you can actually run trains now on your phone through an app or a handheld throttle, and you can interact with each other just like the real railroads would. We also want to talk about the types of, the different types of train layouts. I mentioned we have a shelf layout. There's the regular 4x8 table layout. We have a double deck layout that the Montour actually runs on. So we're going to talk about the different layouts and how they, how to build them and everything, how to build a basic train layout and some of the other things. Probably the most important thing when you're building a model railroad is how to lay the tracks so the trains run. I don't care who you are. If the trains jump the track and it becomes a hassle, it's not going to be fun. Takes a lot of the fun out. So if you lay the track properly, the trains run well. And then with that nowadays, because of these new control systems, the wiring is super, super important. And how you wire, you have to make sure there's a signal between the trains and everything. So it's really important to kind of know all this stuff. And that's one of the things that the kids learn at the Railroad Club, is how to do all of that, and we're gonna some of the episodes, actually most of the episodes, we're gonna have some of our young members displaying a lot of these things that we want to talk about.
Yeah, we want to get them involved in it, correct?
Absolutely,
because that's how they establish their funds for the train, collecting and running trains
and running them. Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's something that we that hopefully others will find enjoyment in. And as you said before, which is very unique, is we are hands-on. I think that needs to be the emphasis for the club itself. It's hands-on, where the kids can come in and actually operate the trains, versus going to some place where you walk around and see them running.
And I think what the neat thing with that is that we have, like I said, we have kids 5 years old, and have we had things broken? Yes. We don't want things broken, but they're toys. Right. We know that's going to happen, and we teach kids to be careful and how to handle things. But that's going to happen, and if that happens, it's not a big deal.
Right.
Because again, like you just said, that's the way we learn. And if we can't play with them, there's no use having them.
Exactly.
And so, but again, we meet every week, Wednesdays, 3 to 6 after school, basically. And on Saturdays, 9 to noon, we are in the Venetia formerly Venetia School, Venetia Heritage Society. There is no cost. It is 800 Venetia Road. If anybody needs to know, it's kind of when you go down Beebot, make the left towards Finleyville, and you'll see the Wrights Methodist Church, and the school's right next to it. There is nothing to join. You come in, we want your name and number just so we can get a hold of people in case we have to cancel, change, or anything. But there's no cost to anybody. This is all run because we're trying to help kids. And I know from talking to parents and just dealing with the kids that it has been a big part of a lot of these kids' lives. We actually have several kids, the older kids now, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, they'll go and do what they call rail fanning and go out and take photos of the real trains and things like that. So, so this hobby can be a lot of things, and but the most thing is it's fun.
Right. And it's for the children as well as the adults too.
Yep. And I know I look forward to it every week.
Well, thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Chet. And if anybody, you know, we have a Facebook page, or, you know, you can get a hold of any of us at the Venetia School. We're there every Wednesday and Saturday. So if anybody, please come and visit us. Even if you just want to see what's going on, come and visit us. We would love to see you guys there.